In Virginia over the weekend, thousands gathered to mark a somber anniversary, 400 years since the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in colonial Jamestown and the dawn of American slavery. And as the nation commemorates that painful history, a renewed focus on reparations for black Americans has become a key issue for the 2020 Democrats, several hopefuls supporting a House bill that would set up a commission to consider economic justice for descendants of slaves. Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee has spearheaded the legislative effort to establish a reparations commission and joins me now. Congresswoman, thank you very much. We've been wanting to talk to you about this for a while, and the opportunity to understand better how this would work. Would it only be for the descendants of slaves, or would it be for all African Americans or people of color who have suffered from the effects of slavery, from discrimination in different aspects of life?
Well, it's so good to be with you. Let me indicate what a moment in history we have, and thank you for reflecting on the ceremony that occurred in Virginia on commemorating those who arrived in 1619 on the White Lion, and slaves, about 20 or so of them, were traded for food. In the midst of white supremacy, white nationalism, and what I said a few weeks ago, that racism is a national security threat, this commission would have immense authority. The commission would study reparation proposals, and we would not dictate to the commission its design, but clearly it would be designed for those descendants of slavery. Tragically, 250 years of slavery in the United States, where those enslaved Africans did not receive workman's comp, salary, 401k or anything, and literally built the wealth of the United States and Europe. That's why it was called the transatlantic slave trade, taking enslaved Africans from Africa, frankly, from many parts of Africa. This commission would have the authority appointed by the president, the majority leader, the speaker, and scholars to really dig deep, something that we have never done before, and to design the response. And I think America is ready for this because of what we have been going through in the last couple of weeks, because of the attitude of our commander-in-chief, and because of what we have seen, the dastardly impacts of white nationalism, white supremacy, and outright racism that has impacted others, but certainly has impacted over the decades and centuries African Americans, the descendants of enslaved Africans.
How do you ever fully compensate all these descendants for everything that's been suffered over centuries?
Well, I think that is clearly the point of discussion, if you will. I have analyzed this from the perspective of sociological, psychological, economic, religious, and educationally, that we can look at the impact of African Americans. For example, mass incarceration, 1 million African Americans incarcerated, redlining, sponsored by the federal government, that specifically indicated don't provide African Americans with the loans they need to move into good housing. The educational discrimination, voting discrimination that warranted the 1965 Voting Rights Act and the 1964 Civil Rights Act. So I think the commission, seriously appointed with leaders of this nation, can look at the pain of slavery and to analyze its lasting effect, and to begin to look at systemic responses, systemic changes. What part of it is an actual official apology that has never been given in a formal way. And I think the point that should be made is that we're not asking my neighbor who happens to be white. This was an institutional work of the federal government. When the Constitution was written, slaves were not given the single status of an individual. We were not written into the Constitution, and the 13th Amendment had to end slavery. So this was governmental. Massachusetts was the first state to make slavery legal, and this has to be a governmental response. We're not a broke country. We're, in fact, a prosperous country if our funds would be directed not to, if I might say, the top 1%, but really to people who are in need. But I do believe that the country has a capacity, and now is the time in this horrible atmosphere that we're in to really move toward reconciliation and understanding. I don't want one person, one member of Congress, to vote on this without understanding it, without appreciating it, And I will tell you, having just come back with the Congressional Black Caucus and the Speaker of the House in the year of return in Ghana, welcomed by the President of Ghana, listening and seeing the most pointed reminder and lecture on this issue, I can tell you now is the time.
Congresswoman, thank you very much. Sheila Jackson-Lee, to be continued. And we appreciate your coming. And that does it for this edition.